Buccaneers defeat the Saints 30-20 out there in New Orleans. You know, you look at this game coming into this contest, the Saints have beaten the Buccaneers twice in the regular season. These two teams have played 3 times. And ultimately, the first 2, New Orleans got the victory. And then this last time, obviously, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went into New Orleans and got the W. Tom Brady did Tom Brady-like things. But this game, really, when it comes down to the Buccaneers, is all about the defense and also the Saints, the Buccaneers' ability to run the football. I mean, they had a lot of success running the ball this time around. I mean, they didn't have this type of success in any one of the first 2 games these teams played in terms of running the football. They didn't have success running the football in those first 2 games. This time around, they committed to running the football, and this time around, they were successful. Whether it was Leonard Fournette, whether it was Ronald Jones, the Buccaneers were successful running the football. And then ultimately, in those other games, it was all about the turnovers, right? You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had a lot of turnovers. Tom Brady had 5 interceptions against these guys in the first 2 games. Now you look at this particular game, different story. Drew Brees was the one throwing the interception. Drew Brees was the one, not playing good football. And ultimately, Drew Brees' inability not to play good football cost his team. It was clear Brees could not get the ball down the field. He had a hard time getting the ball down the field. He wasn't getting the ball down the field, and ultimately it cost his team. It was a good football game. Definitely a good game. Definitely, these 2 teams obviously is a rivalry. NFC South rivals. These 2 teams, not a lot of love lost between these 2 teams. And like I said, NFC South rivalry. But ultimately, this came down to the turnovers and also came down to Tampa's ability to run a football. When the Saints got up 20-13 there in that third quarter, I thought that maybe the Saints were going to take over the game there. I thought there was a possibility that the Saints were going to take that game over. But again, Drew Brees, the turnovers, it was a kill. And you look at Drew Brees, he really didn't play that well last week against the Chicago Bears. He didn't. The Saints as a whole really didn't play that well against the Chicago Bears. And so I didn't like the way the Saints were playing coming into these playoffs and the way they played in the playoffs against the Chicago Bears. I didn't like it. And it kind of carried over a little to what we saw today. They didn't really play that well. They didn't. And when you're this evenly matched, and when we come to the playoffs, right, in the regular season, you can get away with a 3-turnover type of situation against the Carolina Panthers, against the New York Giants. But when you're in the playoffs now, and you're playing a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you can't get away with those type of things. You can't turn the ball over 3 times against a team that's evenly matched with you and expect to win. And you look at Tom Brady, the numbers aren't eye-popping. I mean, Brady didn't do anything amazing today. But again, he was 18 for 33. Again, nothing special. 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. But here's the big thing. Here's the big thing when it comes to Tom Brady and what he did today. Here was the big thing, right? Tom Brady did not turn the football over. 0 interceptions. 0 interceptions is what you see. That is the key to what happened today. Tom Brady did not turn the football over. And because Brady didn't turn the football over, he kept his team in the game, and ultimately his defense was able to make play after play after play, and those plays ultimately got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the 30-20 victory. We look at this game now from the standpoint of now Drew Brees and the future of Drew Brees. You could argue maybe, and maybe this is a little extreme, but I don't know. You could argue maybe that Jameis Winston probably should have got more snaps today because Brees wasn't putting the ball down the field. He wasn't throwing the ball down the field. That was clear. You could argue that Jameis Winston should have gotten more snaps. I know Taysom Hill was out with an injury, but maybe instead of those Taysom Hill snaps, maybe should have went to Jameis Winston and allowed him to throw the football down the field, allow him to have some success with a Michael Thomas out there. Maybe. But it's clear Drew Brees at the age of 42, it's clear that it's over. It's clear it's over for Drew Brees. And it's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's hard to play in the National Football League. It's hard to play quarterback in the National Football League. And it's hard to play quarterback at a high level in the National Football League at the age of 42. So Drew Brees, him not playing well in this particular game, there's nothing to hold his head down for. I mean, the guy's had a tremendous career. Bunch of touchdowns, a bunch of yards. I mean, the next stop for Drew Brees clearly is Canton, Ohio. This dude is going to Canton. That's the next stop 5 years from now for Drew Brees when he hangs it up, and more than likely he's going to hang it up after tonight. That's the rumor that's circulating out there. So he's probably going to be done, and the next stop for Drew Brees is Canton, Ohio. But the next stop for Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is Green Bay against the Green Bay Packers, a team that they played this year, a team that they beat this year, beat them handily. Again, and that's the regular season. And I don't, whatever happens in the regular season, happened. But we got to focus on now the playoffs. Clearly, you're playing in Green Bay, so it's going to be cold. Maybe there's some snow, but Brady's used to this. We know Brady can play in any and all weather. We've seen Tom Brady throughout the course of his 21-year career have a lot of success in the playoffs anywhere. Whether it's New England, obviously it's cold in New England. He's played in some snow. Ask Charles Woodson and the Oakland Raiders what happened there in terms of Brady's ability to play in the snow. I mean, so this guy has done it on all levels and all weather at all times. Now this is his chance. And again, he wasn't great today. He wasn't great. He was solid. But 18 for 33, I mean, that's not great. 199 yards, that's not great. The 2 touchdowns, okay. But the 0 interceptions is what stands out to me, because this guy had 5 interceptions against the New Orleans Saints this season. 5 picks. 5 picks Brady has had against the Saints in those 2 games. Those picks are, you can't turn the ball over like that. So those 5 picks were key. Now we have to see, again, the Buccaneers, this is why you bring Tom Brady in. You bring Tom Brady in to do what he did throughout the course of this season and do what he did today. And that's ultimately get you a victory, help you get a victory. Because you can argue this was about the defense and this was about the running game. But Tom Brady obviously did his part. And Tom Brady, obviously, that's why you bring him in. You remember, right, Joe Montana late in his career. When Joe Montana went to the Chiefs late in his career, right, he got the Chiefs to the AFC Championship game. Ultimately, he got knocked out in the game. I believe he got knocked out in the first half, had a concussion, didn't return, and that was it. And ultimately, the Kansas City Chiefs would lose to the Buffalo Bills in that AFC title game. Look at Tom Brady now, another guy, spent all his career with the New England Patriots, had a great career, did a lot of great things, won a bunch of Super Bowls, and now he is here in the NFC Championship game. Can he do it? Can he pull through? Can he bring these guys to the next step, to the next level? Can he bring these guys to the Super Bowl? At the age of 43, man, everything that Tom Brady is doing is just super amazing. It's ridiculous. 43-year-old quarterbacks are not supposed to do what Tom Brady is doing at this point. 43-year-old quarterbacks are not supposed to have the success that Tom Brady is having this season. I mean, 40 touchdowns for Tom Brady this season. 40. Man's thrown 40 touchdowns this season. You're not supposed to do that at the age of 43. You're not. And he's done it all. He's defied the odds. He's defied the odds for forever. I mean, the guy came into the league as a 6th rounder. He defied the odds to start his career. He's defying the odds at this point. Now can he continue on? Can he get it done? I will say this. Credit to that Buccaneers defense. I mean, Aaron Rodgers may not give you what Drew Brees gave you, because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, 48 touchdowns, playing at an elite level, probably the MVP of this league. So Aaron Rodgers is not going to give you what Drew Brees gave you in terms of those interceptions. He's not. But, this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, opportunistic today, and they have to be opportunistic next week against the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they got to be able to run the ball like they did this week as well. Fournette was big. Ronald Jones was big. And this pack, and look, if you can look at these two teams, you could say, the Buccaneers, bringing in a new quarterback, bringing in Gronk, bringing in some new guys to what they already had. Obviously, they had a lot of weapons. Mike Evans said this week that he felt the Buccaneers had the most talented roster in football. That's what Mike Evans said earlier this week. So he believes there's a lot of talent on this roster, and there is a lot of talent on this roster. There is a lot of guys on this roster with a lot of ability. They're especially on the offensive side of the ball. But that defense stepped up. They stepped up today. They stepped up, and they didn't step up in the first game, and they didn't step up in the second game against New Orleans Saints, but they stepped up in this third game. And in the end, that's really all that matters. They did their part. They did what they had to do. And ultimately, right now, at this point in time, they're where they want to be. Going back to the Saints for a moment, you look at the New Orleans Saints over these past few years, right? I mean, we've seen it with this team and just they're found ways to lose, whether it was the Minnesota Miracle back in 2017, where easily, if the New Orleans Saints win that game against the Minnesota Vikings, they could have went into Philadelphia and beaten the Eagles. I thought New Orleans was a better team than the Eagles, and I thought New Orleans was playing at a high level in that particular year, 2017. But ultimately, the Minnesota Miracle happened, and ultimately they would lose. And then, the following year, you had the situation now where you had the pass interference call. And that pass interference call went against, should have been a pass interference call, but it was a no call. Ultimately, the Saints lost to the Rams in overtime at home in the Dome, and ultimately they went out. And then last year against the Minnesota Vikings, 13-win New Orleans Saints team, had a home playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings at the Dome, and they lost at the Dome, and that was it. And then, obviously, this year at the Dome against a team they beat twice in the regular season, and ultimately they would lose against a team they were up 20-13 in the third quarter, and ultimately they would lose, and ultimately they are out of the playoffs. And again, we got to ask what's next with Drew Brees. It's probably going to be retirement, and that might not be a bad thing after what we saw today. His performance was not very good, and his performance the week before was not very good. And ultimately, because of him not being very good, it might be time for him to call it a day, call it quits, and move on, and live happily ever after. Be a broadcaster for one of these networks. I know there was a lot of interest in him being a broadcaster, so go do that part. And carve out a career maybe like Tony Romo, who was a big-time broadcaster, big-time commentator, a guy that a lot of networks were throwing a lot of money at. And ultimately, he got a lot of money from CBS. So throw some money at the maybe he could be a Tony Romo and have a great second part of his life as a commentator, as a broadcaster for one of these major networks. But it's clear, it's done, it's clear, it's over, it's clear that Drew Brees had a great run. But all good things in life must come to an end, and in reality, the end should be coming for Drew Brees. But again, going back to Tom Brady, he's continuing on. I mean, I don't. Tom Brady, man, you can't say anything bad about Tom Brady. I mean, this dude is the GOAT. I mean, he's the greatest of all time, and his ability to just keep soldiering on, his ability to keep playing at a higher level, his ability to keep winning playoff games, his ability to just win. It's just off the charts. It's ridiculous. He's 43 years old. You would think he would start acting his age. He's not acting his age. You would think this dude would start acting his age. He's not. He won't. He can't. It's that TB12, whatever they got going on there, whatever exercises, whatever he does in terms of his diet. I mean, all these things are putting Tom Brady in position where he can soldier on and continue to play at an elite level. It's ridiculous. He's got to start acting his age, right? Wrong. This dude is not acting his age. He won't act his age. And so, hey, kudos to him. Kudos to him. And he got it done. The Buccaneers got it done. And I think this was a game they wanted. They wanted this one. The Buccaneers wanted this one. You saw Tom Brady's reaction at the end of the game. He was super excited. The Buccaneers wanted this football game. They wanted this one. Obviously the Saints beat them twice, and they wanted an opportunity to show, you know what? They beat us twice in the regular season, but this is a different team. We're a much different team. You know what? And so much different team at this point, and they showed it that they were a much different team. It's difficult when you put this much talent together, right? Tom Brady, coming from New England, 20 years in New England, whole different system than what he has here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No offseason, no OTAs, no mini camp, none of that. COVID, all these virtual meetings, things of that nature. Now, all these things, and Tom Brady had to come here and kind of learn everything on the fly. And ultimately, it didn't start out great. I mean, you saw the first game against the New Orleans Saints in the regular season. Tom Brady wasn't that good. He wasn't that good. And you remember Bruce Arians at the time, he was talking about it, and he was like, this is not the Tom Brady I saw on the practice field. But the Brady that we saw here today, I mean, again, average performance today. Wasn't great. It was an average performance by Brady. It was a good enough performance by Brady. And again, the turnovers, he didn't commit any. 5, like I said before, 5 turnovers against this team. 5 picks against the Saints in the regular season, right? 5 picks. And he didn't throw any today. None. And again, that's the difference. That's the difference. You look at Tom Brady this season, right? Tom Brady threw 40 touchdowns and only 12 interceptions. Darn near half of those interceptions were against the New Orleans Saints. Half of those interceptions were against the New Orleans Saints. Darn near, pretty much, right? So this dude was having a tough time, a difficult time. The Saints gave him trouble, gave him problems, gave him issues. But he solved the turnover situation today. He didn't commit any. And they ran the ball today, which they didn't do in the regular season. First game, they combined for 86 yards on the ground. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the last game, which was a blowout, they weren't able to run the ball because they got behind early, and it was a blowout. But this game, they committed to that run game. They had a lot of success with that run game, and ultimately, again, that helped. Run game, turnovers. Run game, turnovers, and now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are where they want to be. We'll see what happens next week. I'm about to get on out of here. Just wanted to jump on here real quick, talk about what happened here today in New Orleans. Again, Drew Brees, probably his last game, and that's not necessarily a bad thing based on the way he played. Tom Brady, 43 years old. This dude is going to play until he can't play no more, and he's going to try to get this Buccaneers team to the Super Bowl, and it won't be easy against those Green Bay Packers and against Aaron Rodgers and those boys. But they wanted to. I mean, I guess it's not as hostile an environment in New Orleans because there's no fans there, but they wanted to in a hostile environment and got the victory. And now they're going to have to go into another hostile environment on some level in Green Bay to get it done. For everybody here, just make sure you make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. We talk sports. We have fun doing it. And, we have a lot of videos out there throughout the course of the week. We're going to have a lot of videos out there throughout the course of this week. So make sure you join us. We talk sports. We have fun doing it. We come back here, and make sure you come back here next Friday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time, 7 p.m. We're going to talk some more sports, have a little bit more fun doing it. For everybody here, again, make sure you make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, make sure you do all those great things. See you later. Take care.